So usually we're going with a standard question. We could make an exception for you, but we're not gonna. So who are you and what brought you here?
My name is Dr. Aubrey de Grey, and what brought me here was to run a conference.
Thank you very much, besides for inviting us here. Yeah. It's our second conference, but we have to say it's much better than Rejuvenation setup in Berlin. No offense, Rejuvenation setup. So why and how, I mean personally wise, why you decided to get into longevity?
I got into longevity when I was about 30, basically because I discovered that biologists were almost all uninterested in longevity. They thought that aging was kind of not their problem, or at least not a problem that was worth working on. And I had never realized that until that time. I had always assumed that biologists thought the same way as me, that aging was kind of obviously the most important problem for humanity, the thing that causes the most suffering. So I only found out that that wasn't true when I met and married a biologist and started meeting biologists. And by that time I was already had a perfectly successful career working in artificial intelligence research, but I was only doing that because I felt like, you know, the humanitarian value will be like people won't have to do work, they won't have to do stuff that they wouldn't do unless they were being paid for it. And that's an important problem, but the problem of aging is very obviously a much more important problem, so I had to switch fields really, and luckily I was in a position where I was able to do that. I had a very undemanding job that gave me lots of spare time and access to university facilities and so on. So that's why I switched fields in the mid-90s.
Yeah, what would you say to people who are against longevity?
So, of course, people have a lot of arguments that they put forward for why aging is some kind of blessing in disguise and why, we shouldn't be trying to fix it. And if you look at those arguments individually, then it's very easy to see that the arguments are completely broken and there's no way in the world that we should be thinking that way. But if you explain these things, it doesn't work. People almost always will come back with some other equally idiotic argument. And I rather rapidly realized when I started having these conversations that this was because people need to believe that aging is a blessing in disguise in order to put it out of their minds. And, get on with their miserably short lives and make the best of it, rather than being preoccupied by this terrible thing that's going to happen to them in the future. And, I can understand that, but of course it doesn't stop me. One thing actually that I think is very, very heartening and very good news for the field over the past few years is that people your age are getting involved in it in some numbers, because the younger generation haven't been ground down by failure. They haven't lost the ability to aim high so much, and so you can get more out of people like that.
I'm actually not as young. I'm the same age as when you got interested in longevity. But I have to say, I'm also never been into very healthy lifestyle. Do you think genetic plays a most role or epigenetic, like lifestyle?
Well, so this is a question that's actually not really well understood or indeed spoken about even by experts. So let me be a little careful here. The role of genetics in aging is, it's not nothing, but it's not very big if we compare different individuals. Of course, it's a huge difference if we compare different species, but we're not doing that, right? Then lifestyle, also actually plays a relatively small role. I mean, of course, there are certainly lifestyle choices that can substantially shorten your life, but if we are comparing living the way your mother told you to, but nothing else that's special, versus doing extreme measures to try to maximize your healthy life, it'll probably make only a couple of years difference if you're lucky. So it's not that either, really. A lot of the variation we see in longevity across the human population is neither of those things. Instead, it's the result of completely random stuff at the molecular level that happened very early in life and just ended up influencing how biologically old you were when you were born, because that tends to stay with that basically stays with you throughout your whole life.
So if you would give the advice to a younger person, let's say between the 20 and 30, how money is playing a big role in future longevity, and how expensive going to be the treatments, is it better to live a calm lifestyle and try to be as healthy as possible and wait till the market gonna come to you, or you need still spend your house span and time to earn in as much money as possible, so you would be able to afford these treatments in the future?
Yeah, neither of the above. So, first of all, we really don't need to worry about the expense of these treatments. And the reason we don't is because it's going to be economically beneficial for the nation, for any country, to ensure that people don't get sick when they get old as soon as it becomes possible. You know, even if these therapies are quite expensive to deliver, which they probably will be at first, like any new technology, nevertheless, the amount of money we will save by people not getting sick will be vastly more. So these therapies will pay for themselves very many times over very, very quickly. And governments will understand that in advance, before the therapies are even finalized, which means that they will already be in a position to put in to front load the investment and so on, so that everyone who is old enough to need these therapies will be able to get them, irrespective of ability to pay, pretty much as soon as anyone can get them. I'm so not worried about that at all.
Yeah. So as I get, we can just continue partying hard and not really earn any money because the future is exciting.
Well, no, not that either, unfortunately. I mean, yes, some people can party harder than others. I have the good fortune to be built well, and I don't put on weight or anything, even if I don't exercise, and I can eat and drink pretty much what I like, and nothing happens. So that's wonderful. But of course, other people are not necessarily like that. Other people are more vulnerable to, lifestyle choices and dietary choices and so on. But also, of course, there's the third thing. One can work to hasten the defeat of aging. The sooner it happens, the more people will be saved, and the more likelihood you are to be saved, to have your life saved by these therapies. So, of course, you're doing that right now by interviewing me and by being at this conference. And, of course, you've got a big audience. So, I'm very happy to be able to help you to help me.
I'm very happy to help you to help me. But in general, I also believe more in butterfly effects, that this kind of more infect the future, rather if I'm going to stay healthy and not drink any alcohol. And Jakub very disappointed that alcohol is available only from 6 o'clock. But we as well we call it stupid bag.
Oh, yeah.
It's typical arguments what people say against longevity. So get one and try to answer.
All right, here we go. That's a lot of things.
Yeah. Okay.
Living longer means you will get bored and run out of things to do. Okay, so boredom is an important thing, but people get bored today. And the reason people get bored today is not because they have been alive for a long time. It's because they haven't been educated well enough to know how to get the most out of what life has to offer. So absolutely, I think that for that and for many other reasons, it's a priority to put more resources into education, including, of course, adult education, so as to give people more of the potential to get more quality out of life. And of course, a lot of the reason, in fact, most of the reason why education is so substandard today is because it's very expensive. So, the question is, where will we get the additional money? And I just told you that earlier on, right? We get the additional money from not having to spend it on keeping sick people alive.
Yep. Thank you very much. Usually I have only one question for a person, but you can drag another question, or you can tell me what your new foundation doing. You choose. You can also choose both if you want to.
Yeah, no, I won't bother taking it. I've answered them all 1,000 times on stage and on camera over the past. The answers haven't changed.
Yeah.
But no, I'll tell you what the new foundation's doing. Yeah, we're doing these enormously ambitious lifespan experiments in mice, where we are figuring out how to combine different interventions. So there's a load of things that people have tried in mice that seem to have some level of promise, but because aging is such a complicated phenomenon with lots of different types of damage accumulating semi-independently from each other, the only way that we're really going to bring aging under medical control is with a panel of interventions. And at the moment, there's almost nothing being done to actually see which combinations of interventions work. And a large part of that is because these experiments are very, very intricate, very difficult to design and to perform, and they're very expensive. But, someone's got to get on and do these things, or else we'll never find out what works. And, I do what I'm known for. I do the crazy things that nobody else has the guts to do.
Okay, but do you have any social things which you would do in your foundation, like to popularize anti-aging?
So yes, absolutely. So we are very much moving with the times in that regard. In other words, the more progress is made in society to make the fight against aging acceptable, the more possible it is to actually have an impact with advocacy. So, of course, I've been doing interviews and talks and so on for 20 years or more, trying to make a difference there. But until recently, it's been pointless to talk to governments, really, because governments just want to get re-elected, so they'll just do what they think public opinion wants. And public opinion has been pretty resistant to the whole idea for reasons that we just spoke about. It's only now that the conversations have become a little more civilized, really, and it's possible to make a difference. And for that reason, we're now in LEV Foundation, we're putting a lot more of our financial resources into advocacy and outreach than what we ever did a few years ago.
Okay, thank you very much. And get one more question.
All right. What we got? With extended lifespan, we will have to stand mother-in-laws for decades longer. Yeah. There are ways to get away from one's mother-in-law. You can get divorced and get married to someone else and get a new mother-in-law, things like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Hope you like the interview, and please subscribe and follow the newest rejuvenation and anti-aging stuff.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.